to the Ricky Walter Show, and I am your host, Ricky Walter, your neighborhood health practitioner. I always preface the show by making this disclaimer. This is not a therapy session. Now, even though I am a licensed practitioner and I hold licensures as a licensed professional counselor and a licensed chemical dependency counselor, in addition, I have 20 years of experience working with children and family going through hard places. This show is designed to provide you information that may be relevant to your life and your emotional well-being or the emotional well-being of your loved ones. You know, recently I have noticed a number of celebrities, Prince Harry, Prince William, Lady Gaga, and John Gray, associate pastor of Lakewood Church in Houston, share their personal stories of living with mental health issues. Now, what perfect timing. I've lived with mental illness for 50 years. I lived in the shadow, afraid of what people would say or how they would view me. And I had questions about why God would create such a horrific existence for me. It was my reality, but I wasn't in my reality alone. God was in there with me. Now, I've designed this show today to talk about living in the shadows and secrecy of mental illness. Now, as an African-American pastor, I am very aware of the trauma that exists in the pews. Now, 14% of the U.S. population is of African-American descent. Now, that is an estimated 46 million people. Now, 53% of blacks attend church on a weekly basis. 80% of those individuals and families attend one of 7 historical black denominations. Now, the black church indiscriminately of the denominations have systemically blurred the issue of mental illness, and I believe that's unintentional. However, it has exacerbated the issue. Now, mental illnesses are real, and so is the stigma associated with them. And that does not imply spiritual weakness or a lack of faith, and so I want to make sure I inform you of that. Now, for example, according to research, depression is a serious medical illness affecting more than 19 million American adults each year. Now, depression can be treated. In fact, more than 80% of people with depression can be treated successfully with medication and psychotherapy or a combination of the two. In the African American community, depression often goes untreated. Now, there are factors that contribute to that. For instance, fewer African Americans are diagnosed and treated with depression. And that's mainly because they mistrust the medical profession based on historical experiences with things like racism, classism, sexism. Cultural barriers, influenced by language barriers and value differences between mental health professionals and African Americans. There's been a huge reliance on the support of family and the church community during periods of emotional distress. Now, from my experience, African American children and adolescents are the most profoundly affected. Now, studies have found that children who reside in black communities face a plethora of challenges: high poverty, acts of violence and crime, gang activities, physical victimization, parental stress, limited social support, unemployment and underemployment, and of course mass incarceration. Now, those type of exposures influence higher rates of mental health issues, such as aggression, depression, anxiety, and stress, which impacts their ability to excel academically and to develop proper social and interpersonal relationships, and it goes on. But I want to share this clip with you, courtesy of PeersTv. Take a look at this.
Because sometimes when you have a mental illness, you feel so different. It's like you're not even, you feel so disconnected. Like I can't even feel like other people feel, When I would burn myself, the sound of the needle hitting my skin, I could hear my skin burning. It brings back that, okay, I am human, I am here because I can feel this pain.
went to prison twice. Both times it was drug related. My first time going to prison is when they put all the labels on me. The psychiatrist will talk to you for 5 minutes and give you a diagnosis. And 9 chances out of 10, it's wrong. And you really shouldn't be there, because that's taking the guy that has mental challenges and placing him with the guy that's just a straight up criminal. And you know what's going to happen. It's going to be trouble.
When I was 8 years old, my mother and father asked me who I wanted to live with, and I chose my father, and that really, really hurt her. At that time, she could not see that I was just a child. She just saw someone who she loved leaving her. And so as a result, I hated myself for it. It was a very traumatic event for me because I was like simultaneously disowned by both of my parents. So I think that is what really brought about the depression and the anxiety, because I couldn't understand why I was even born, why I was even here. And so I started to do a lot of self-mutilization. I looked really ugly and just disgusting. I just felt like I was just a worthless person.
I can say the trauma and the scars that we carry and the pain that we carry, and it's not okay to talk about it, you know, and I don't care, because the truth needs to come out.
I didn't want to die without having my voice heard. I felt like there was some reason why I had gone through the things that I had gone through, and there was some reason why I have depression, and people need to understand that. And I feel like that couldn't be something that could be written in a suicidal note.
So a lot of my experiences, I didn't realize how painful they were until I became mature. You know, and then I realized the hurt that I carried and the reason that I acted out in the way that I did.
This kind of self-hatred within ourselves, it's this perception that everybody else has around us. We've taken it in and we've kind of lived it out.
You feel like it's something wrong to admit that you have some form of mental challenge.
Taboo in the African American community it can be hard. Both my mother and father have that they're carrying that weight of our ancestors, of their parents and what they went through. So much mental damage was done to the African American community through slavery.
They'd much rather tell you that they got AIDS before they tell you that they have some form of mental illness. And it's just that much stigma.
When you're seeking help, when you're trying to become well, if you get a deep cut and you go to the doctor, you don't say, oh, that's a white thing, I'm not gonna go to the doctor. My leg is bleeding and I'm losing feeling, but I'm not gonna go to the doctor.
The first thing you have to do is remove the so-called stigma from it.
Because African American people need to really comprehend what a mental health illness is before we can proceed with any other, area of achievement in America.
Today I'm challenged because I suffer from major depression, and I'm fortunate to find a man that treated the depression and not just zonked me out so I wouldn't be a problem.
Everybody needs support. Everybody has that one person or that friend or whoever, relative, whoever, that they call on when they just need to talk to somebody. And that's really what therapy is.
And I finally started to believe that I had a chance, that I was gonna be okay, after so many people told me I would never make it. And I do mean so many people.
The moment that I actually found out I was having a daughter, the first, I honestly cried. But now that I have my daughter, she is like my saving grace. I'm trying to focus on just letting Zion be a kid and focus on what I tell her, the words that I use. Because I think that we kind of forget that our kids, maybe our kids, but they're human beings in the making. And the things that we teach them, the things that we do to them has a huge effect on what they do in their adult lives and what they're gonna do to their children.
Being a black man, it's very hard to show any kind of fear or show any kind of feeling sometimes, because it's just not sociably acceptable. And you got to be a man for those kids of yours. Yeah, well, I want my kids to be honest. I don't want them to live the lie. The chain snapped with me. My boys will never go through what I went through.
Are we in a crisis? If you followed social media this week, you witnessed live a horrible crime perpetrated against a helpless elderly man. Now, could that have been avoided? I really do not know. But as a professional practitioner and a human being, I would encourage you, if someone cries out to you, stop ignoring them. See, mental illness is not a crisis in and of itself, but the stigma associated with it is. Pay attention. Is someone trying to tell you something now? Well, as I always promise, we are at our question and answering part of our show. And today our question comes from Amber. Amber wants to know, my daughter saw the video of the Facebook killer. What do I do? Should I take her to a therapist or counselor? Well, Amber, this is my response for you. That is a serious traumatic experience, especially for a child. Well, I want you to watch for a few things for starters. If your child is not behaving as she normally would, take note of that. And if she is more isolated than normal or refuses to speak about it or even overly fixated on the incident, that could be clues to seek for professional help. Now, however, don't overreact. If you do not see any of those behaviors and they're not out of the norm, just create space for your child to speak openly if she chooses to do so. Your part would be just to listen without judging her, okay? Thank you for joining me today. And I'd like to encourage you to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And as I always say, nobody can beat you at being you, so be the best you can be today.